Hello there, it's your somewhat neighborhood-friendly Senate. Now, today we are going to be discussing how to distribute 3 versus 3 teams for the Sith Eternal Farming Guide for all of you Sith Eternal farmers who may be a little bit lost for 3v3 teams. I got your back. Personally, I love 3v3 as much as I love Nickelback. And speaking of Nickelback, look at this goddamn photograph. Anyway, I don't think that's actually a very bad ratio, but, you know, as a YouTuber, it seems to be my duty to complain about that. Anyway, we are trying to reach 500 subscribers, and once we get there, if we get there, then I'll relic 8 Bodhi Rook, because I said I would. And it was a terrible idea, and it might actually happen, so... Anyway, on to the video. And now, first up, what we're going to be talking about today is Sith Marauder. Now, everybody likes Sith Marauder. He hits as hard as Amber Heard, he's got a ton of health steals, synergizes well with Darth Revan, and can play very good control in taking down those pesky out-of-turn attack teams. And he rams offense, he rams defensive statistics as well, and he can just nuke people. You want to use this team ideally for offense, because, yeah, no tank. And he does a ton of damage. He stacks ferocity. You have both Darth Revan and Bastila Shan Fallen to manipulate kind of the flow of battle, turn meter buffs and debuffs, and then Marauder can just delete problem characters and big threats to take them down. And if you don't have Darth Revan, you can just stick Marauder with some scrub Sith, but that's kind of only like 40% of his total power, just the scrubs from the Journey Guide. But you probably want to use like Maul, Lead, and Sidious with him, but it's not a very good team. You really want Darth Revan. Although in comparison, Marauder's just going to slap you on the wrist, while Anakin will just Twitter stand, triangulate the location of your house, nab your IP, and drop an atomic bomb in your backyard kind of damage. And this damage is only increased by adding Qui-Gon Jinn in the leader slot and tossing on his Omicron, where when Qui-Gon dies, he gains a ton of stat bonuses to Anakin and to Windu. But Windu is there to cover Anakin because the very common countering tactic of the Qui-Gon Jinn Omicron is to control Anakin with a stun or a fear or a stagger, or not a stagger, sorry, a fracture. And Windu kind of prevents that with his taunt keep popping up again. Another alternative to Windu is General Kenobi, but General Kenobi's gear requirements have more carbs than your average American's diet, so he's pretty expensive to get up there. And with Windu, your win percentage rates will be higher than our obesity rates. This is a much cheaper and better alternative for Grand Arena towards the Padme route, where you would have Padme instead of Qui-Gon and, say, GK instead of Mace. But this works a lot better than Padme, although some people know how to perfectly counter this. But it's much cheaper gear-wise, much cheaper Zeta-wise, and you get more bang for your buck than this than in contrary to using Padme. Next up, Imperial Troopers. They're my favorite firing squad, at least in Galaxy of Heroes. Dark Trooper Relic is completely optional, but if you want to boost his fisting power, he's a great choice. He does require Kyber Tech, though, but he's an accelerated farm, and I would say he would be one of the better ones to choose off of the Sith Eternal journey. Unfortunately, this firing squad requires 2 Zetas, one on both Veers and one on Piet, and you want to take them on offense because they're dumber than a box of shit on defense. Their advanced-ass AI will do 3 AoEs and not help the team at all, and then die. Returning viewers would know that this is one of my favorite teams in the game, and I've made a few videos on them. There is one to help out beginners for Imperial Troopers, and you can also look around on media to figure out how Imperial Troopers work. Now we talk about Palpatine, but not the good Palpatine, the mediocre Palpatine. There's 2 different teams that I have suggested, one for both defense and offense. If you do not have Darth Malak, I'd advise using Thrawn for both. Even though he can be a bit sketchy on defense, he's a bit better in the control aspect. He's best on offense because your Mara Jade, likely you don't want to invest Kyrotech on other characters that aren't on the Sith Eternal journey if you are going for, say, a Sith Eternal rush. So you would like Thrawn there to swap a turn to Mara Jade to initiate the train sooner. The reason why I do not have Vader here is because Vader is highly, I would consider, overkill, and I don't think he brings a whole lot to the team because he is a damage-based character. He's high damage, high hits, ramping debuffs, and then ramping damage with those debuffs, while Palpatine and Mara Jade just try to lock the enemy team down with stuns, with shocks, with potentially fractures once you throw Thrawn into there, and I don't think Vader really matches. And Vader can also bring up some terrible, what's it called, Empire and Sith, whereas he wouldn't bring up these guys too much. What I have to touch base on about Thrawn is better for offense because the AI is very willy-nilly with swaps. I believe the AI typically opens with Fracture. It is a 1 in 3 chance whoever he fractures through. I want to mod your Mara Jade so that she is a bit faster than Palpatine, so that she gets the first move, unless you are planning to use Thrawn to swap a turn. And you might be asking, Senate, why is Malak here? Malak is actually a great synergy with Emperor Palpatine because of his, the health bonus that he gets from the Palpatine lead, further increasing his total health. And whenever Malak inflicts a debuff, then because he is Sith, he recovers 20% health. This is an absolute menace because a huge health bar of 150,000 plus for a Relic Malak, he's getting back a ton of health for each hit. He's getting back like 30k health for a 150k health Malak, and he inflicts a debuff with all of his skills. He inflicts Tenacity Down, which is irresistible, so it's a guaranteed effect. Whenever you basic, you're guaranteed to get 30,000 hit points back from an already pretty tanky character. Once you use the shock, it's another 30k hit points, and once you get 3 stacks of Dark Infusion, or whatever it's called, then you will apply healing immunity on the basic. That will apply after Tenacity Down, so that's 2 effects, so you will be healing 60k every time that you do a basic. And now, Mara Jade and Palpatine also frequently apply shocks with Palpatine's basic, and then Mara Jade's special. Malak can turn shock into a 2-turn stun, which is very valuable in a control-based team. And he taunts whenever somebody is shocked. So people are going to be constantly shocked. Once they come out of shock, who are they going to have to target? They're going to have to target Malak. And once they target Malak, if they critically hit him, they get fear. And it's just a terrible scenario for the attacking, or for the other team. This is a difficult team to get through on defense, and you might have to overkill it, so I suggest Malak here. Malak is also great for solos, but if you're on the Sith Eternal journey, I think this is a strong defensive team.
Count Dooku.
A lot of people use him with Sith from what I've been seeing, which is not what you should be doing. I would advise using him with the Separatists under Nute Gunray lead. With Dooku here at Relic and high tenacity mods, and the Zeta, your opponent really has 3 terrible options as to who to go for. They could either try to gun down Nute, he's going to revive, take a bonus turn, duck into stealth. And he's going to take his bonus turn, either drop Extortion, if Extortion's already on, he's going to motivate, mass assist. Or they could hit Dooku, who will, at high Relic, Dooku will hit back harder than what they hit him for. He'll inflict stun, ability block, potentially, and he can heal for the damage done with his Zeta, and apply critical hit immunity to himself. And Jango Fett, for his first 2 turns of the game, he will be in damage immunity, so you can't really do anything to him. You can't inflict debuffs on him, though, which is quite unfortunate for him. This is a very annoying team. It's best on defense, because a lot of people, they just don't seem to know how to deal with this, so they'll either send an overkill, or they'll try to send in something weaker, and they'll get eaten up. Dooku always opens with the turn meter boost, Master of Makashi, which kind of sucks. I wish he did stun first. If you do want to use this on offense, it's not that bad on offense. Just make sure you stun somebody with Dooku and then put Extortion on the person who is stunned. That means that they cannot pay Extortion because they're in stun. It'll detect that as a turn because that's how stun works. And then it'll say, the game will say, hey, this guy had the option to pay Extortion, but he chose not to. So it'll spread it to the rest of the team, which in reality never happened. They were stunned, so they couldn't pay it. So basically, we're just like making them all commit tax fraud, and then we're getting away for it. Next up, we have Vader, Krennic, and Tarkin. Now, I believe out of these 3, the best leader is Director Krennic because of the ability block spam that you're allowed to use with his lead, because they're all Empire, obviously, and they all have a ton of debuffs that they can put down, and they can just put out a ton of ability blocks there because of Director Krennic's lead. This team isn't actually as bad as you may think, because they just get stuck in ability block like the entire game with however many critical hits you're landing. With this entire team, you roll out a full stand of Merciless, and then we've got a Tarkin AoE, Krennic AoE, and then Vader AoE, and yeah, it's gonna be ugly if you move first, or it's gonna be ugly for them if you move first. And you'll find that there's much more spam in this team than any HVV lobby, which is like, it's definitely saying something. There's also more spam than an average American's diet. Now we talk about where to place Colonel Stark. I believe the best way to split the Imperial Troopers in 3v3 is the old Iden Veers split, and for the third member of the team, it can be a lot of things. I would suggest either Range Trooper or Shore Trooper. Shore Trooper probably better for defense, because in case that you don't want to invest that Zeta into Iden, then having no tank on your team and no taunt makes Iden very vulnerable. And I would suggest Range Trooper for offense. Death Trooper is also another strong pick, but Death Trooper needs to be high gear to have a reliable damage output, whereas Range Trooper can be lower gear and rely on the assists from Iden, who has a triple tap on her basic, and Colonel Stark, who is a relic character with a defense down and double damage mechanic on the basic. Shore Trooper does require a lot of Carbantes, though. He's, I believe, the most in the game. So another alternative for defense could be Stormtrooper, but you're going to need to get that taunt up pretty quickly. Now we have the Sith, specifically Maul, Sidious, and Royal Guard. While this isn't the greatest of all teams, these are not the greatest of all requirements. Royal Guard has uses in Empire, I will not deny that. He's also great with Lord Vader, however, most people in this video do not have Lord Vader. And he's pretty nice with plug-and-play Empire, but he's incredibly defensive-oriented. And really doesn't apply much offensive value. He can be thrown in with Palpatine and Mara Jade, but he's effectively a pre-taunt in this team, where Maul leads Zeta, forces every Sith into stealth, which Royal Guard's not a Sith, so he's basically a pre-taunt. This is a great banner sniping team and a cleanup team. However, it's not incredibly reliable. It can snipe out some lower gear good teams, with having 2 relic AoEs and then Maul's rampage kind of mechanic. And the bonus turn meter from Maul's lead in the stealth really helps in Conquest, knocking out stealth feats, and having that 20% extra turn meter for your Vader, your Darth Revan, to outrun the Conquest enemies, because they are very fast. Last on the list comes Sith Eternal himself. Now, Sith Eternal, you don't actually really want to use him with any requirements. I would recommend usage with Night Sister Zombie and Old Daka. This prevents the Wampa counter unless they are incredibly high speed or just modded like a god. It has the old Tenacity down stun combo that prevents pretty much any solo. General Grievous doesn't work in 3v3, he doesn't have enough. He doesn't have enough firepower, and the Link's going to have to go on crucial people. It's going to have to go on B1, which makes Sith Eternal's ultimate charge skyrocket, or on Grievous, which is game over. Very minimal counters to Grievous is the Sith Eternal on or off meta counters in 3 versus 3. So you can stick it on defense, however, he is still soloed by every GL, I believe. Maybe not Jedi Master Luke, but pretty much every GL. Unless you're planning to pull an opponent's Galactic Legend, make him waste a Galactic Legend, then yeah. This works at relatively low gear. You have Night Sister Zombie, has to be gear 10 for the 3 revive mechanic, where you have to chew through Daka 3 times before you can take down Zombie and take out that taunt. And this also counters Jedi Master Kenobi, but obviously you're going to need them all Relic, you're going to need them all God Mod. This counters a couple Galactic Legends, a couple ones that doesn't work, like SLKR just falls flat on its face. It's a good utility team for offense, and it's rather cheap investment if you don't want to go the high gear route. The main premise of Sith Eternal is stalling until he can get his ultimate, whereas you have the constant taunt from Night Sister Zombie, and in order to take down that taunt, you have to kill Old Daka a total of 3 times. So it pesters the opponents, and by the time that they're done with that 3rd revive of Daka, Sith Eternal will already be an ultimate and ready to nuke two out of the 3 people on the enemy team.